You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episode? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes consistent. The reason for this is our last episode of season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time like to talk about. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening during production of the first season. Matt started the act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid, mentioning this to anyone who has present results in them, getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mention it to Matt. The first I heard of it at an event where David Silverman was speaking, someone in the crowd asking about the episode, and the Silverman simply left the stage, ending the presentation hours early. The episode production number was 70006. The title was Dead Bart. The episode labeled 7G06. Moaning Lisa was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the letter existence. In the addiction to getting angry, asking anyone who was on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone. As he was leaving the building, he didn't seem upset that I had followed him. Probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the last episode, though, all color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website address on it. I would rather not to say what it was, for a reason you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and I came to the site that was completely black, except for a line of the yellow text, a download link. So, as a file started downloading, once a file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. The system restored didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted before doing this, though. I copied the file onto the CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer. As I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons in it. The episode started off like any other episode, but had very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation for some enchantment evening, it was similar, but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the weight of characters was acted a little off. Homer seemed angry. Marge seemed depressed. Lisa seemed anxious. Bart seemed to have a generous anger and hatred for his parents. This episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip near at the end of the first act. The plane was taken off. Bart was fooling around, as you expect However, as the plane was about 50 feet off the ground, Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the anime style of The Simpsons would represent life and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took fully advantage of it, not having to move, and made it an almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with a shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at their table, crying. Crying went on and on. It gave more pain and sounded more realistic. Better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more when they cry. You could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurry. They looked like deformed shadow figures. The shadow figures that then they're stretching and blurring. They look like they form shadows with random bright colors. Drawn on them. There were faces looking in the window, flashing in and out, so you were never sure what they looked like. This crying went on for all of Act 2. The Act 3, with the title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were scarcely thin and still sitting at the table. There were no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. The Springfield was completely deserted. As they walked into the cemetery, the house became more and more decrepit. They looked all abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was just lying in the view. Zoom out as the episode came to a close. The tombstone in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them. Some that no one had heard of in 1989. Some that haven't been on a show yet. All of them had dead dates on them. For guess who died since, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison? The dates were when they would die. The credits were completely silent. Seemed handwritten. The final image was a Simpsons family on their couch, like in the intros, but all drawn in hyper-realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode for the first time. Could you try to use the tombstone to predict the death of a living Simpsons, the guest stars? But there's nothing odd about most of the ones who hasn't died yet. All of their deaths are listed as the same date.